A driver had to be freed from his car after crashing into a house in Lawrence County, Ohio this morning.
Lily, Andy, thanks so much. Boy, what a fun morning. This is the first ceremony, first announcement in 3 years for the West Virginia Music Hall of Fame. And this year's inductees include 3 living inductees and 2 deceased. Here's a display of some of the artists here. They represent a wide variety of musical styles.
If you get a call from someone asking for you to hand over your banking information or put cash on a gift card for them, don't do it. Charleston police say scammers are using names of Charleston police officers, and they're telling people that they'll be arrested because of unpaid fines. So if you get a call like this, just hang up and then call Charleston police.
Continuing coverage of yesterday's deadly helicopter crash here in Logan County that killed 6 people. Now that helicopter, that Huey helicopter based here at the Logan County Airport, I can tell you that investigators from the NTSB are at the crash site right now.
So much fun talking to him today. Now Flowers and his brother, they actually used to play in a band in Nashville called Pinch, named after their hometown.
Welcome back, everyone. We've got Mr. Keith Deal from Nitro with us. And Keith, you've got a 1929 Ford here. Tell me about this car.
But this building is so much more than a war memorial. Over the years, it's become an important cornerstone to the African-American community in Kimball and McDowell County.
Things are a lot different this year. They were able to bid on their routes during the 3rd week of May. That means they've had all summer to drive their routes and to find out if there were any problems along the way.
We begin tonight with breaking news out of Nicholas County, where officials say a deputy and a shooting suspect are both dead. Now, this happened in the Birch River area just before 8 o'clock tonight.
If you go to a food drive, sometimes you're thinking, what do I buy? What do I get? Do I get the canned sauerkraut? Do I get the lima beans? You don't want the lima beans. No. What you want to do is buy one of these bags for 10 or 20 bucks and look inside. You've got all the stuff you need. They make it easy. They take the guesswork out of it here.
We did that, what was that, 2 years ago in February?
I was just thinking that. It was 2 years ago. This brings back such memories of that ice storm we had about 2 years ago. And Texas had the ice storm then, too.
Yeah, it was February, right? Yeah, it was.
I think it was, yeah.
Man, that was a mess. You can still look out in my backyard and see where the trees had fallen. They're still out
here. Yeah, exactly. All right, Spencer, thanks. Hey, let's get a check of the big board traffic right now.
I better start practicing now. We're on Kanab Boulevard near Capitol Street. This is the John Adams Middle School Band right here. It's one of the first groups in this parade. There's 130 groups tonight. We've got a train here with all kinds of different colored train cars and lots of folks on the train. They're going to be riding in style for this parade. We are going to be walking. We're going to be, hey guys, what's up? You're on TV. You're on 13 News. They're loving it. They are absolutely loving it.
Coming up, high waters wreaking havoc throughout the region. We'll take you to the areas that are getting hit with massive flooding and its effects. Plus, testing was set to continue measuring chemical levels in our area after that train derailment, but the severe weather has pushed that back for a bit. Plus, aging infrastructure causing residents and businesses to go without water today in Scioto County. Lane Ball will have some insights on the water main break in New Boston. You're watching 13 News at 5. A flood watch is in effect for much of our region, causing schools to let out early and mud to slide. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Rob Macko. Amanda Barron is on assignment for us tonight. We start tonight with team coverage on this severe weather and water concerns throughout our region. 13 News reporters Rachel Pellegrino and Mark Curtis are here to give us some insight on the chemicals in our area from the train derailment. Happened a couple of weeks ago in Ohio, and Chief Meteorologist Spencer Atkins will tell us all about the heavy flooding and how long this severe weather is going to last. But first, we're going to go live to Lincoln County. Now, this is in the Harts area near Harts Pre-K through 8. This is over on McClellan Highway, where there have been all kinds of issues this afternoon. Not only was there high water covering the roads, but a power pole actually fell onto the road. That caused issues with dismissal for the school kids. The students were on the buses, but then the drivers couldn't go anywhere safely, so they brought the kids back to the school, got them a snack, and waited for the water to go down. Once that happened, they were able to get the students back on the bus, and now they are heading home. Lincoln County was also hard hit. This is in the Yawkey area. The creek here spilling into the road in some spots. You can't tell where the creek ends and the road begins. This is along Midway Road. It's not far from the ambulance station. Josh Hunter sent us this video, so we thank you so much for that. Now to the Griffithsville area, where the roads were also covered in water. This is in front of the old Duval Pre-K through 8 school, where you can see some drivers made it successfully through the high water. The students at Duval Pre-K through 8 who were in the Hamlin area, they had a delayed trip home. That's because the roads getting to their homes are flooded, so they can't get there. Same is true for many Lincoln County high school students. We caught up with one driver who says it's just a real mess out there. And one school bus driver told us they couldn't believe the amount of rain that fell in just one 45-minute stretch. This was the scene this afternoon on Route 34 in Putnam County, just north of Interstate 64 near Tays Valley. One lane of traffic was flooded and drivers had to exercise some patience getting through there, but dispatchers say there were no serious problems reported. All Putnam County schools were dismissed 2 hours early today. Take a look at this now. It's a mudslide. It blocked Route 21 in the Sissonville area in Kanawha County. Everyone going that way had to take a different route. This happened after 1 this afternoon. The cleanup took hours, but it is now clear. And in Huntington, Four Pole Creek is at its banks. In some cases, it's spilling over. This is the Enslow Park area. It's a spot known for flash flooding. People there are used to it. Now, just in the last 2 weeks, crews were out cleaning debris out of the creek to try and prevent flooding like this and flooding that we saw this past summer. That ruined some of the things in people's homes, and in some cases, it took months to clean up. All right, here's what we know about the chemical plume from the train derailment in Ohio as it moves down the Ohio River. According to the West Virginia governor's office, the large plume is at Point Pleasant, and it's moving at about a mile per hour. Because of today's rain and the fact that the Kanawha River ends there, the additional water will greatly dilute the traces of chemicals. It's estimated the plume will get to Huntington by late Friday night or early Saturday morning. Again, officials say the chemical levels are small and that they are not dangerous. All right, 13 News reporter Rachel Pellegrino joins us live now along the Ohio River with details on what's next as that chemical continues to move downstream. Rachel, West Virginia American Water has switched over to an alternative water intake system on the Guyandotte River, and the company says this will be in operation until further notice, but they're continuing to monitor the water quality there. Today is semifinal Friday at the Charleston Coliseum. Teams are battling to punch their ticket to tomorrow's Boys State Championship basketball games.
Yeah, a huge upset win today.
Huntington East Middle School was put on a brief non-emergency lockdown today. Cabell County Schools says that 3 students were taken to the hospital. 1 was sent home. The students used a vape pen, which is suspected to have contained some type of marijuana product. Canine dogs were brought in to search the school after this all happened. The lockdown has since been lifted. After nearly 5 decades, a long-standing Go-Mart on Charleston's west side is permanently closed.
Yeah, the convenience store.
We have some breaking news out of Gallia County tonight, where authorities have confirmed the worst fears for one family. The body found last week on Mount Carmel Road has been identified as 24-year-old Kobe Roush. He has been missing since July of 2020. We'll have much more on this breaking news coming up at 6 o'clock. A driver had to be freed from his car after crashing into a house in Lawrence County, Ohio this morning. The State Highway Patrol says it happened just after 6 o'clock on State Route 93, about 5 miles north of Ironton. The driver had to be cut from his car. We're not sure how serious his injuries were. Now, there were people in the house at the time, but none of them were injured. Well, it's not the first time this house has been hit. Noah Wilson says a vehicle hit the house about 10 years ago and also around 30 years ago. He says it's probably time to petition for a guardrail. We've got new information on the crash that killed 2 people in Nicholas County yesterday afternoon. State police say a trooper clocked a motorcycle going 120 miles per hour on U.S. Route 19. The officer tried to pull that driver over, but he took off and eventually crashed into a logging truck. 2 people on the motorcycle were thrown off the bike. Both of them were killed. State police identified the driver as 19-year-old Devin Brantley of Birch River. His passenger was a juvenile female. Her name has not been released.
Signed 4 bills into law.
The governor says this was one of the most productive legislative sessions in state history. 13 News chief political reporter Mark Curtis is here now with more. Mark? Republican lawmakers in Kentucky have passed a measure to ban gender-affirming care for transgender minors. GOP supermajorities in the House and Senate overwhelmingly passed the bill on Thursday. They have the votes to override an expected veto from Governor Andy Beshear. The bill also affects how gender is talked about in schools. It allows teachers to refuse to refer to transgender students by their preferred pronouns. It also includes a ban on gender-affirming surgery and drugs for transgender teens and youth. Now, there was an emotional debate on this. The bill's opponents say it is discriminatory and that it will hurt transgender youth. A new Par-Mar convenience store is set to open in Charleston. It's going to be built at the intersection of McCorkle Avenue and Thayer Street. The Parmar will have an Arby's restaurant and a BP gas station. No word yet on when that's going to open up. Fourth-year Marshall University medical students at the Joan C. Edwards School of Medicine today found out where they're going to begin their careers as doctors during a match day ceremony. The National Resident Matching Program will send emails out to graduating medical students at Marshall, as well as thousands of other students across the country, revealing where they will spend the next 3 to 5 years of their residency training. And they got those letters today, so they know where they're going. The National Resident Match Program, it's a not-for-profit organization. It uses a computerized algorithm that matches the preferences of applicants to residency programs. The hope is to produce the best outcome for everyone in their careers. All right, so we're less than 2 months away from Charleston's second annual Dancing with the Stars competition.
Yeah, the event is fun.
Lexi, thanks. A local restaurant that's still feeling the effects of the pandemic is looking to expand its business. They're trying to bring in more customers. Super Weenie on Courier Street in downtown Charleston is well known for everything hot dogs, but coming soon, they're going to be opening a convenience store right next door. Owner Jason Meyer says at first he cut the restaurant's hours to remain operational, but at the end of last year, he decided it was time to branch out to something other than just hot dogs. Meyer hopes the convenience store will be open in about 6 weeks. He says more updates will be posted on Super Weenie's Facebook page. Right now we're going to go outside. We're taking a live look out over Charleston, and look at the skies there. Wow.
It's like the cliffs of Moore today on this St. Patrick's Day.
Very dreary out there, but we'll get through this. Chief Meteorologist Spencer Atkins has your forecast when we come back.
It's almost like you can literally set your calendar, though, every 7 days.
We've seen this movie before.
I know.
We're kind of getting tired of it. The plot's getting old.
Let's get a new plot.
Yeah, let's do this.
Of course, there's a huge sigh of relief now that a suspect has been caught. So what is next for these historic churches? Here's what we found out. The fires gutted St. Mary Baptist Church in Port Barre, Greater Union Baptist Church in Opelousas, and Mount Pleasant Baptist Church near Sunset. Virgie Esprit has been coming to church here since she was a child. It was hard for her to see the church like this, but now that an arrest has been made, she was ready to see the damage for herself.
I think I feel much better now, much better. And I don't have no hate in my heart for nobody.
21-year-old Holden Matthews has been charged with 3 counts of simple arson of a religious building. Now, this is all that's left inside the Mount Pleasant Baptist Church outside of Sunset. According to the church stone, it was built in 1904, and despite the destruction, church members say they are going to rebuild in this exact spot. Eddie Taylor and James Esprit are deacons at the church.
We will rebuild in the same location. Yes.
Pastor Freddie Jack, president of the 7th District Missionary Baptist Association, says all 3 churches had insurance and plan to rebuild. Still, the insurance money won't cover everything, so they're trying to raise $1.8 million through a GoFundMe account.
We need all the help that we can get right now, right? But our help comes from the Lord. Yeah. That's why our help comes from. Do I have hate for the guy? No. I can't hate him. I'm going to have to forgive him. What he did was wrong. Maybe he didn't know better. I'm sure he didn't know better.
And if you would like more information on the church fires, we have a page on our website dedicated to those stories at klfy.com. A father is speaking out tonight after his fiancée and 2-year-old son were killed over the weekend in a suspected drunk driving crash. His loved ones were killed at around 1:30 Sunday morning on the I-49 South Service Road near Sunset in St. Landry Parish. A 16-year-old girl is now also fighting for her life. Here is more in a heartbreaking story you'll see only on 10.
He's there with his eyes closed, face full of blood. He was gasping, breathing. I said, son, just hang in there, baby. Please, hang in there for Daddy. Daddy's here.
Kenneth Arsenault of Karen Crow is reliving a nightmare. His 2-year-old son, Zane, and 35-year-old fiancée, Lacey Leger, were killed when a suspected drunk driver crossed the center line and hit their car with his pickup truck. Lacey was driving, and they were only about 5 miles away from home. He saw lights in the distance getting closer into their lane. Lacey tried to swerve.
It hit, I heard boom, I heard noise. I felt like I was whipping around. My eyes was closed. When I opened my eyes, I seen my family just laying there, not moving.
Arsenault walked away from this mangled car with only cuts and bruises. 16-year-old Nevaeh Leger was in the back seat of the car with the baby. She is Lacey's daughter. Nevaeh's father says she is currently here at Lafayette General Medical Center unconscious, fighting for her life.
She's in ICU. She has brain damage. and it's just going to be a slow process. Very, very slow.
Brandon Leger says his daughter also has a broken vertebrae, a broken jaw, and will have to have facial surgery this week. State police suspect the driver of the pickup truck, 48-year-old Michael Shane Guidry of Karen Crow, was drunk. He suffered non-life-threatening injuries. State police say it will be about 2 weeks before toxicology results come back. Arsenault says he has nothing good to say to him.
No, not really. Because he took everything from me. Everything I had is gone because of him.
Taking innocent lives away from us over drinking. And we the ones that have to suffer to look at our babies in ICU or dead.
State police say Lacey and Nevaeh Leger and Zane Arsenault were all properly restrained. Now, Zane was Kenneth Arsenault's only child. He says Lacey had just turned 35 on Saturday. He says he lost his brother Thomas to a drunk driver back in 2007. Now, a GoFundMe account has been set up for the family. We will have a link to that on our website, klfy.com, after this newscast. Well, the elk had been killed off by hunters in the late 1800s, but today the elk herd roams parts of Logan and Mingo counties. Now, I checked in to see how they're doing here in the Mountain State. These male elk are right at home on this reclaimed surface coal mine in Mingo County, West Virginia. Around 80 elk roam the Tomblin Wildlife Management Area in Mingo and Logan counties.
The word that's commonly associated with is majestic. You know, they hold their heads high, they're proud, and they kind of prance more than run.
I had never seen elk before, so in mid-October I went out looking for them with Randy Kelly. He's a wildlife biologist and the elk project leader for the West Virginia Division of Natural Resources.
You got to be out here to get opportunities to see it.
The DNR started bringing elk back to the Mountain State in 2016 from a facility in western Kentucky.
And we did our first stalking in 2016 where we released 24 elk from land between the lakes.
In 2018, 15 more elk from western Kentucky and 46 from Arizona were released in the Tomblin Wildlife Management Area. The elk had to be quarantined in this holding pen in Logan County first. Not all of them survived. Some died while in transit or quarantine. And around 1/3 of the Arizona elk died from a parasite after eating snails that had consumed brainworm eggs.
This summer we've not had those kind of issues. We have lost an elk or two, but it's more in line with what we expected.
Kelly says this rugged terrain is good for the elk.
What the coal mining's done in southern West Virginia is create some early successional habitats, some grasses and things like that, a lot of forbs.
The male elk are called bulls, the female elk cows. We visited the elk toward the end of their mating season. Kelly says about 15 calves have been born here each of the past 2 summers. This has been so much fun tracking these elk. We've been out here for about 2 hours now, and just a few moments ago, we're at a place called Rattlesnake Point. I saw 2 bulls about 70 yards away from me here. I'm going to show you some video now that I just shot with my iPhone camera. Just amazing to see these creatures up close and personal.
Those are 3 to 4 year old bulls, so they're going to weigh probably 650 pounds, probably somewhere in that neighborhood.
Kelly says the older, bigger bulls can weigh between 800 and 1,000 pounds. They like to establish their dominance in the herd.
When somebody hears one bugle for the first time, I like to tell them, welcome to West Virginia elk country, because that's exactly what it has become.
Most of the elk have radio collars with transmitters and are tracked on a laptop computer. West Virginia state parks have hosted popular elk tours in years past, but they were canceled this year due to COVID-19. The wildlife area, however, is open to the public.
As far as seeing elk, you might have to walk a little ways to get to see that for a little bit longer. We're working on those access issues, and we'll resolve those as the mining operations move and complete in some areas.
The DNR hopes to have an elk hunting season someday, but that's still years away. Meanwhile, Kelly believes the elk herd will eventually generate millions of dollars from tourists who come to southern West Virginia to see them. Pretty amazing creatures there. The elk program is funded by sportsmen through hunting licenses, a federal excise tax on guns and ammunition, the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, the Conservation Fund, and other private donors and foundations. Now, there's no word yet on when more elk will be brought to West Virginia, but the DNR hopes to open a second release site in Wyoming or McDowell County.
I wish it could be completely adjusted for the rate of inflation, but this is a check to pay you back what the union took from you.
A special ceremony honored 79-year-old bass player Johnny Smith Saturday at Levi First Missionary Baptist Church in Rand. American Federation of Musicians Local 136 President Mike Pushkin apologized to Smith, the only surviving member of the band The In Crowd, which was punished for taking a stand against racism in 1968.
I don't think that this necessarily makes things right. I think justice deferred is still justice denied. What this reaffirms is that Mr. Smith and his bandmates were right.
So what happened? First, a little history. Johnny Smith was a popular musician in the Charleston area. He bought his first bass guitar at 18 while stationed in Germany with the U.S. Army. When he returned home, he began playing in rock and jazz bands throughout the Charleston area. He once played with Otis Redding in Beckley and did several shows with John Lee Hooker in Charleston.
Talk that talk right now.
Yeah, I sat in with him. I played with him. I found him to be a good musician, a personable type of guy.
Smith worked as a lineman with the power company by day and played music on nights and weekends. And one night, the racism of the 60s was something he couldn't ignore.
Johnny Smith says that in 1968, he and his band members were playing on the third floor of the Charleston Athletic Club, which was on Kanawha Boulevard at the time. He says a black man and white woman sat down at one of the tables, but no one served them.
They just sat there and they sat there and they sat there. And I think they danced a couple times, and then when they sat back down, nobody had come. And this was an appreciable amount of time. It was over 15 minutes.
Smith says he and his bandmates talked about it and decided to tell the manager about the situation, but they were ignored.
Since he still didn't send anybody to wait on, just continued to ignore, we quit playing.
Smith says taking that stand led them to being kicked out of the club. Worse, the musicians union fined each member $150, which would be more than $1,100 today.
It actually enraged me to the point, like I said, I never joined the union again. I never went back.
Johnny's son Brian says gigs only paid about $30 back then, so the $150 fine was significant.
He was married. You know, it wasn't just him. So when they levied that fine on him, they knew full well what they were doing, and they were going to teach him a lesson.
Brian says hearing the story over the years angered him, but he hopes the union's actions on Saturday will give his parents some peace.
It says a lot about the evolution of the union and the mindset. It says a lot about the evolution of the area.
Brian's longtime friend Joe Slack got the ball rolling, telling Pushkin how the union treated Johnny Smith back then. To make amends, the union reinstated Johnny Smith and paid him back $250.
Seeing justice almost done is just as important as being strong enough to forgive. And so I'm thankful that I was able to see that. I really am.
In Rand, Rob Macko, 13 News, working for you.